So, we're going to talk today about SuMeru, the churning, the ocean of nectar, from Puranas, and how we're trying to decode the symbology of ancient. So, everyone's know about the Purana Lila of SuMeru and a mountain, sacred mountain from Puranas, that it was used for the churning of the nectar of the ocean of nectar that was between Devas and Asuras. And um, I believe that this is related with the ancient history of India and Middle East. So that's what this talk would be about. Let's start with a prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. My name is Amritananda Das, Alexandre Zanella de Souza. I'm from Brazil. I'm a student of history, yoga, Ayurveda, Jyotish, arts, and cultures of ancient India. I'm also a follower of Hindu traditions. And before I start, I would like to make my pranam, offer my obeisances to the lotus feet of the Gurudev, my spiritual master that give me diksha, initiation, and also all the other gurus that gave me siksha, instructions. So I would like to mention especially my Diksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, also my Siksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vana Goswami Maharaj, and of course Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada that brought the Krishna movement to West, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that started this movement, Vyasadeva that is the author and compilator of the Vedic tradition in our era, Swami Shivananda from Rishikesh that gave me initiation in his line, not his personally, but in his line that I get initiation in Hatha Yoga and Vedanta. And also Guru Gobind Singh, Guru Tegh Bahadur from the Sikh tradition that give me a lot of insights and preserved dharmic traditions also in the Vedic India, in the modern India, medieval India. Valmiki Kaviraj, and also many modern scholars that inspired me, as Rajiv Malhotra, Shrikant Talageri, Bibi Lal, K.K. Muhammad, Raj Vedam, Subhash Kak, Vedvir Arya, Manoshi Sinha, Coinrad Elst, Jeffrey Armstrong, Michel Danino, David Froley, Meenakshi Sinha, Dr. Shankar Kashyap, Dr. Nagaswamy, Sanjeev Sanyal, Sahana Singh, Jijit Nadamuri Ravi, Dr. Vasant Lad, G.D. Bakshi, Nitin Sridhar, and many others. So all this is based in a huge research from these scholars, and not only because they wrote about many ideas, but they inspired me in this research. So this topic is history as investigation. So I try to go beyond the institutional dogmas as perceived by colonizers. That is the mainstream academic perspective. And I try to review the native itihas under a native perspective. In the case, the Indic perspective. Decoding symbolic ancient language of Puranas that are perceived as myths and try to go to search the wisdom beyond the dogma. It's a knowledge under construction. It's investigation. So it's not a final work. It's like a theory in under construction, and so many things that still not concluded. Many questions can arise from these perspectives, uh, but I would like to expose them. Question the colonial Eurocentric perspectives in the natives of Septa Sindhu, SuMeru, and Assyria. The language is not synonymous of race or ethnicity. That is my first point. So we speak one language, like here in Brazil, we speak Portuguese, but not necessarily that I have Portuguese ancestry. In fact, I have more Italian blood than Portuguese, but I speak Portuguese as native language. So language is not exactly ethnicity. That is the first point that many people don't get when they create that narrative that Aryans are the ancestors of Europeans. So the colonial narrative still goes as mainstream history. If you check the academia, you will note that history of India is still told by the perspective of those that invaded and colonized it, and stigmatized India as exotic, primitive, superstitious, and oppressive, and glorify the invaders that and try to whitewash their crimes, even sometimes blaming in the natives traditions for all the problems created during the invasion and colonial era, sometimes in a way to justify the colonial foreign rule. So we can divide my basic theory is that the Puranas and the Vedas they speak about an ancient divide in the human civilization, in the human history. That is the divide between the Devas and the Asuras that goes till the Satyug. If you check the Vedic perspective of time, it's different from the Western. And the Western perspective of time is the linear perspective. So we're going from the apes and evolving to the human and going tribal and then civilize it slowly. That's the perspective of the Western history. But the Vedic history, it talks about the yuga concept, that time is cycles, that is not linear. So if you check the time, everything is cyclical. The day and the nights, the seasons and the years and the stars and everything is rotating. The earth is rotating, and it makes much more sense to identify the time by its cyclical movements than its linear Cartesianic way to try to put this knowledge. So we can find two divisions in the human society. That is the Deva and Ashura from the Puranic Itihas. And this is very ancient from Satyug, what is called the Primordial Ages, when the Devas and Ashuras lived on earth. And many people interpret that Devas and Asuras are like demigods and demons. And this is a wrong translation. That is like trying to put into a Western perspective of angels and gods. That is, it's very Western perspective. Asuras never meant demons in ancient literature. In fact, if you check the Vedas and the Puranas and even Avesta, you can note that it talks about the same identity, the same family, the same what people call Arya civilization, and it was a split in this the same civilization. It was like the two clans from the same family. Uh, if you check, this is repeating age by age in the Puranas tradition in Itihas, where you see like in Mahabharata era, you will check that the Pandavas and the Kauravas are cousins and they fought each other. And in the Ramayana, you will also can find some similarities between the culture traditions of Ramachandra and Ravana. Both worshipped Shiva. So if you see, there is a huge connection between the Devas and Asuras that goes back to the Kashyapa Rishi in the Puranas. That is, Kashyapa is a Muni, that he is grandson of, sometimes described as Manasaputra of Brahma, sometimes described as grandson of Brahma. And he literally, Kashyapa in Sanskrit means turtle, that we can associate also with the Kurma avatar, but there's this, nobody mentions about it, but it's some identifications, and we will see later that how this can have more connections, symbolic connections maybe. um, so my theory is that there is two civilizations, the Devic civilization and the Ashuric civilization, and both are humans. They are not exactly demigods or demons, even that this can symbolize their religion. And yeah, I don't deny the esoteric uh, perspective that there are some demigods, and but I won't enter in that perspective exactly directly, but I will enter in the ideas of these civilizations. So basically we see two different theologies in the world: dharmic traditions and Abrahminical traditions. And dharmic traditions, they are rooted in the Vedic traditions and the Brahminical system. And Abrahminical system is rooted in the Abraham. Abraham or Ibrahim, that is a character from the Kateb uh, people, the Jews, the Christians, and the Islamic theocracy. They believe that the civilization started with Ibrahim, their traditions. No? And if you check the Ibrahim history, you will note that he was like a Brahmin in the beginning, because he studied astrology, he studied Eastern spirituality, and later rejected. He goes against astrology, he goes against idols, and against the cow worship. Basically, he was against all the aspects of Brahminical dogmas, like the cow is sacred, so Ibrahim slaughtered the cow to God. And there is a big split in the mindset from the Brahminical perspective and the Abrahminical perspective. And this similarity is something that people don't correlate very much, but I think there is some relation between the word Abrahminical and Brahminical. Abrahminical or Abraham or Ibrahim is sometimes described, translated as the Brahmin, the Brahmin. E is an article. So this is a question in open. But if we look to the theology of these traditions, the Abrahminical traditions claim that we born in sin, that we are sinners since we born from Adam and Eve, and they are sinned in the beginning, so we born in a sin. And idolatry is also a sin. But in the Brahminical tradition, you see that Atma is our real identity and God is everywhere. So there is nothing like something is sinful. And their real identity is Atma, is pure, so it's not sinful in any sense. Animals have no soul, and nature is to be conquest. That is the basic of a Brahminical theology. And in the Brahminical sense, the nature is sacred. Animals have soul, and you can find God even in the soul of animals and plants. Abrahminical traditions, they believe in prophecies, and they claim that polytheism is evil. But Eastern spirituality brings many traditions coexisting in the same space. So what people call polytheism in the West is basically the diversity that exists in Eastern traditions that coexisted since ancient times. And so it's basically a monoculture that basically in one dogma, one book against the diversity of the library and universities of the Dharmic traditions. Brahminical traditions, they believe in resurrection, and Brahminical traditions believe in reincarnation. So here we can see the root from my theory, like in the belief. What is the main Ashura belief in the Puranas? Is the Mritya Sanjivani, that they will need to get immortality through the tapasya that they learned from Shukracharya. So they believe in resurrection, that their body can resurrect. No, so they, you can find in all the Ashuric civilizations this concept of resurrection and this concept of resurrect the body, heaven and hell also. So it's a believer from one side and a seeker from the other side. In one side, astrology is a sin, cow to be sacrificed, and the other side, astrology is science, and cow is sacred. But if you look to the history, the demon of the colonial digestion is already took over. The Indologists, they claim that everything, they claim a Eurocentric perspective and supremacy in the Indic Itihas. They try to appropriate of Vedic ethos, claiming to be the Aryas, and stigmatize even the traditions, like what the Nazis made with swastika and what the politicians together with missionaries do with the Dravida fake race theory. Also, Sufism played a huge part in this digestion of culture in the Indian subcontinent. That Sufism was used to observe the native traditions under Islamic umbrella. So you can find a lot of this digestion in Sufism. And Jesuits and missionaries, they play the biggest part in the propaganda against the Hindus worldwide. They are responsible for many stigmatizations regarding caste. And Jesuits are famous in colonial enterprises by finding ways to convert the natives by education system after deep study of its traditions. And today, even they try to create atrocity literature against India. Also, you can find many New Age group movements that are based in theosophy. They are influenced by Indic ideas, but they distort them and digest it in many different products without mentioning the source, many times even turning against Hindus. And later, but not more dangerous, the Marxist historians, that they were perpetuating the Indologist perspective, aiming to undermine and deconstruct the native traditions, bringing many absurd claims, all based on foreign values and modern Western ideals, whitewashing crimes of colonial forces by blaming all social issues on natives, the main victims of all explorations. So many colonial lies, they are mainstream. Arya, Dravida as race. These are racist ideas, Eurocentric ideas with no validation by the literary source. The glorification of invaders and whitewash of its crimes in name of secularism. So they try to whitewash the crimes of invaders, claiming that is secular to do that. And they distorted the swastika, the use of the Indic ideas without reference. The same time, England and Portugal and other European nations stole a huge amount of wealth from India and other nations during colonial rule. They got infected by the bug of its wisdom that changed West forever, as Vedanta made religious dogmas obsolete and Kama Sutra shocked Victorian morality. All Indic ideas permeated Western minds, even under huge suppress. So basically, what I'm trying to say in this topic is these two civilizations, the Western civilization and the Eastern civilization, is like two big oceans, and they are clashing together since immemorial times. So you can find many Indic contributions, linguistic studies, national languages of European. They are formed after the understand of Sanskrit, the discovery of Sanskrit, grammar, phonetics, etymology, poetry. All this was developed much from Indic perspectives. Decimal system, the mathematics, architecture, zero, scientific approach like the Brahmanas, even the secularism, the real secularism, the plurality of thought, the syncretism, the vegetarianism, animals' rights, humans' rights, spirituality, surgery, medicine, yoga, agama, Vedanta. You can find many contributions to human civilization from the index traditions. So before we start talking about Assyrians and Deva civilizations, I would like to talk about the Samudra Manthan Lila, for those that are not aware of this Lila. So it all started with Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Rishi is famous for being a little angry and very strict, serious monk. And when he got anger, he cursed. He used to curse. So he give it a garland, malati from beautiful fragrant flowers, I guess from Parijata tree, I'm not sure. But he made a beautiful mala. I think he received it from Apsara, I'm not. But anyway, he gave it this garland to Indra. And Indra was not much interested in that. And he put that garland in the elephant, Airavat. But elephant was distracted by the bees that came because of the fragrance of the flowers, and the elephant threw the garland away and even put the foot on it. And Durvasa saw that and got very angry. How he disrespect my honor. I gave him honor and he disrespect. So he cursed that Indra will lose everything for his enemies. And then Indra lose everything from the Asuras that are the enemies of the Devas. And there you can see that in Puranas talked up that the war between Devas and Asuras took it like 10,000 years, something like that, and many wars. So it's sometimes the Devas won, sometimes the Asuras won. But you can find that this time the Asuras was prevailing because of the Durvasa curse. So Vishnu instructed Indra and the Devas to make the churning of the ocean. So there was a milk ocean, sometimes described as white ocean, that they have a big mountain in Mandara mountain, sometimes also described as the Meru itself. And they put it Vasuki Naga surrounding the mountain, and the Devas and Asuras pushing one from each side. So they started to churning the mountain in the ocean, and this produced first the halhala, that is a poison that will kill the entire civilization. And Shiva drank it this poison. That's why he is worshipped by devas and asuras alike as Mahadeva. And many jewels started to came from this churning, like Lakshmi Devi, Apsaras, Varuni Devi, the Airavata. Even Airavata is said to be presented in this lila before, but is said that also he born from this churning. And Uchai Shravas, the horse, seven-headed horse, the Kaustaba, Parijata flower, many wonders I said to be came from this lila, from this Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean. So it was inspired by Vishnu that Devas and Ashura worked together. So you can find that they worked together, and then come Lakshmi and married Vishnu, and Dhanvantari, the moon, the cow, Surabhi, many wonders, Shank, the bow of Shiva, and finally Dhanvantari. Dhanvantari came with the Kumbha, the nectar of the immortality, the Amrita. And this is the symbol of the Kumbha constellation, the Aquarius constellation. If you check the astrology symbology, you will find Dhanvantari there. He is Aquarius. He holds the Kumbha of Amrita, and he's throwing that Kumbha, that is the wisdom, that knowledge, to the world. So the Devas and Asuras started to fight for the Amrita, and then Vishnu came as Mohini. Mohini is the female avatar of Vishnu, and she distributed the nectar to the Devas and the Varuni to the Asuras, and she distracted them with her beauty and her enchants. So Mohini distributed the nectar, but Rahu was very clever. He was Ashura, and he hid it between the devas and drank the Amrita. But then Sun and Moon, Surya and Chandra, told Mohini is Ashura. Then Mohini cut it Rahu head. So that born the Rahu Ketu myth. That Rahu is the head, immortal head, and the Ketu is the tail. And this big dragon, this big demon in astrology is regarded as the shadow that covers the moon and the sun in the eclipses, as that's how they calculated the eclipses in the ancient times. So there is a lot of correlation with astrology. And if you study astrology, I started to go in this topic more deeply because of the astrology, the history of astrology, because many people claim that astrology came from Greek. And even if you find that there is a Babylonian plaques that shows that the zodiac is not exactly Greek, but it was older than Greeks in Mesopotamia. But even so, there's this, like a dogma in the academia and new age groups to claim that astrology came from Greece and Greek influenced India. And that's why you find that Jyotish is a Greek influence over Indian mindset. I say that is completely false narrative, that is completely nonsense, and Eurocentric perspective, colonial perspective. Because if you check the Jyotish Shastra and even the myths in the Puranas and the Vedic, and even history, where is the history civilization is older? It's not in Greece, it's in ancient India and Middle East. So you can find many different perspectives that I use. It basically is Purana, the Itihasa of Purana, but also the Sikhi perspective. Many people don't know, but the Sikhi books, the Sikhi traditions, Dasan Granth Sahib, and other Sikh grants, they talk about the Itihas, the same traditions that Hindus also believe, but they have some peculiarities and some ways to tell the history. And they also talk about the Deva Shura divide, and they say that this is ancient as the world, and it happens. And when the Ashuras and the Devas they fought for the Amrita, dropped uh, Amrita in the world. The Hindus have the same belief. That's why they do the Kumbh Mela traditions that also connected with the Kumbh Rasi, that is Aquarius, that you see again Dhanvantari and Amrita dropping the Kumbh. And there is belief that this in the ancient times was happening, the Kumbh Mela was happening in 12 different places around Bharatkhand. Today, only 4 of these places remain. That's Haridwar, Prayagraj, Ujjain, and um, Nashik. And these places that still preserve the Kumbh Mela. But if you check even the Kuba River in the Afghanistan and Peshawara area, the Gandhara area from ancient times, the Kuba River also have the same root, Kumbha. And today it's called a little different, but the roots is historically recorded. It's Cuba. And also Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu, they have the same name and they used to have the same belief that the drop of Amrita followed there in Kumbakonam also. So the Sikhs claim that the main drop of Amrita dropped in Amritsar, where is Amrit Sarovar in the division of India and Pakistan. And they claim that is why, not claiming, but it's the natural view that the partition line that was drawn between India and Pakistan is kind of related with the divide between Devas and Ashuras. And we can go there, talk more about that. So Punjab was always the battleground between Western invaders, and all major battles between the Western and Indic civilizations happened there. So if you find the Dasarajana Yuddha from Rig Veda, you also see mentions of wars in the Punjab area from Western invaders. So the Middle East and India are deeply rooted, connected since ancient times. And we will see more about that in the tomorrow about the Sarasvati River, the discovery of the Sarasvati River, how this changed the perspective of ancient India, and points to the Sapta Sindhu that as claimed in the Rig Veda, that the historians try to deny it, that is not from India, they are outsiders. But the main river that is mentioned in Veda many, many times is Sarasvati River only. And Sarasvati River is traced to North India and sometimes some parts in today Pakistan, no, but it's all in India. Devas are from Sapta Sindhu. Sarasvati River is proved by geology, and all the major sites of Indus Valley civilization are on the dry banks of Sarasvati River. So it's very important that we note this, that people call Indus Valley civilization, but the main river was Sarasvati, and it's dried. Not exactly dried because the main tributaries of Sarasvati changed the course. Sutlej goes west and met with the Indus, and Yamuna going east met with the Ganga. So these made the main tributaries of it disappear, and then the river became only monsoon river, like Hakagragar. It still happened when they have big monsoons, and but only in the monsoon time. And you can trace from geology all the dry bed of this river, and it's very young, ancient, and you can find even water in the subground. So all the main sites of the Indus Valley civilization being in the dry bed of the Sarasvati River talks us much that the Vedic civilization is the same of the Indus Valley civilization. Where was Indra worshipped if not in North India and Pakistan? You can find Indra worship in all North India and today Pakistan in ancient times. Even today, Kalash tribals in Pakistan, Chitral Valley, Swat Valley, they have in their traditions ancient Indra worship. Varuna in Sindh area. So the Devatas, they are worshipped in the North India, not anywhere else. You won't find Deva worship. Only Shiva, because Shiva is worshipped by Deva, Ashura, Nagas, Yakshas, all the tribals worshipped Shiva in ancient times. So maybe you can find some traces of Shivaism in other places, not only in India, in Middle East, but mostly is lost now because of the new religions. So Parashurama was a Bhargava and a Brahmana. He rebelled against the tyranny of evil Kshatriya kings, and he took Veda and Dhanurveda to Shastra to tribal people of South India. Bhargavas came from Brigu Muni, that he sided sometimes with Ashuras against the Devas because of Lopamudra, Vishnu, his wife, killed his wife because she was hiding the Ashuras. She was helping the Asuras to hide. So Bhrigu Muni and his son Shukracharya, he have a huge uh, quarrel against Vishnu and Vishnu traditions. This created a huge divide. And Asuras from Assyria. In fact, if we can trace the Ashura traditions to Persia, to ancient Persia, the Daityas from the Puranic lore. But the terminology Ashura became what we know as today, even in India, as a demon, when it came to Assyria, when it founded the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrian Empire, Ashur was the first capital of this empire. The god was named Ashur. The festival, the Ashura festival, is also related with these ancient traditions. Even it's more uh, recent. It's related with the Karbala war, but it related with their ancient traditions. If you see the kings of ancient Assyria, not all, but many of them, they have Ashur in their names. Nabucodonosor Ashur, Ashurbalite, Ashurbanipal. So you can find in the Ashur king list many Ashur kings using this name. In the Zoroastrian, in the Persian tradition, the Avesta, that is more ancient than Assyria, you will find the mention of the Ashura god as Ahura, Ahura Mazda. And you can see that they are cousins of the Vedic people, the Adityas, because they follow also Yagya, but they call Yasna. They call Yasna, that is the fire worship that the Zoroastrians are famous worldwide. It's the same Agnihotra of the Hindus. It's the same. The Yagya Kunda, it's just they call Yasna. They also had the Pistris, the four classes, social classes, identical as the Hindus. And they believe in the Ameshai Spenta, that the god is one. God is Ahura Mazda. That's like a personal god, but even sometimes described as a bearded man in the skies, in some kind of a Vimana and a solar Vimana. And but he said that he manifests himself between Ameshispenta. That is described as six entities, and sometimes are described as seven. But in fact, they are the same because Ahura Mazda is the sun, and the other six are the other six planets. If you see the Western astrology, it's rooted in the Ashura traditions because the Ameshis Penta, the seven angels, are nothing different from the seven planets. In fact, even the seven angels that the Bible and the Brahminical traditions call about the seven archangels, they are related to these seven gods that were related with the seven planets. And you can see the traces of these ancient religions in the Yazidis from the Syria, that they have worship from Melektaus. It's one of these seven planets, seven angels. And you can find the gods related with planets in ancient Babylon, Mesopotamia, and all around Middle East. I will talk about more about these in our third class about the religion of the Middle East and a religion of the Vedic people in our third class. I won't enter much today about it. Uh, so Babylon is very famous in Bible, that our even sometimes people associate the Western civilization with Babylon. The Rastafari people, they say that we live in the Babylon system. And Babylon, you see the name Bab Elam. Elam is an ancient people that lived in the Middle East, to the east of the Mesopotamia, and they are described as brown-skinned people. That is very strange because today in that area you find some brown-skinned people, but not the mainstream. And but they are Elam people. They are described as brown skin, and the Assyrian people all know as white tribals. But Babylon is described as in Bible as the mix between civilizations. No, it's like the king of Babylon. That he tried to unify all the peoples and create the Babylon, and then you can see the mixture of civilizations. People used to think that in ancient times, people lived in bubbles. Like in Egypt, there was only Egyptians. In India, only Indians. But they forget about the Silk Road and the sea roads that existed since ancient times in the Indic Ocean and Pacific Ocean. And you can see many exchange of ideas and also of civilization. I don't believe that neither India, neither Mesopotamia was ethnically pure. No, I think they both were diverse in many ethnicities, even today, and wasn't different in those times. If you see the Indian civilization, you can find many different ethnicities composing this what we call today Indian. It's not exactly one tribal group. And the same I can say from Babylon. Babylon is a mixture of Elamites and Mesopotamian civilization. So Babylon is famous for creating this universalist empire that they are trying to conquer, and from this that they created these many theories for conquest. So Assyria, in fact, was the union of many kingdoms. In the beginning, was just a capital, Ashur, but later it grow a lot and connecting with other surrounding civilizations, especially the Persians, the Mitannis, Urartu, Elamites, Akkadians, Hebrew, the Canaanites, and even the Egyptian people. And if you see in the Vedic literature, in the Puranic literature, they also describe it as different ethnic groups. Ashura is a mixture of Daityas, Danavas, Milecha, Naga, Yaksha, many different ethnicities you can find mixed in what we call Ashura tradition. It's not exactly one kind of people. And SuMeru, this name, SuMeru, Su means auspicious, and Meru means the mountain, the top mountain of the world. That is called as the center of the world. And I have a theory. I'm not sure that it's the truth, but I have a theory that the ocean of milk mentioned in the Purana is in fact the Central Asia highlands covered on snow. Especially in those times, it was the top of the world and it was covered in the snow. It was the earth was colder than it is today. And it is a region of many huge lakes. You can find the Caspian Sea, you can find the Black Sea, you can find the even Kashmir. If you see Kashmir, in ancient times it was a big lake. Satisara in Puranas and said that Kashyapa opened that lake and it was drained. So you can find many connections from Puranas that points that the SuMeru is located in the Central Asia. It's in the north of Kashmir. If you see where is the location of Meru is in the Pamir area, what is called the Pamir, and it's in north of Kashmir and east of Uzbekistan, and is the huge area, basically mountains, huge mountains, and there is believed to be the Sumeru. So it was in the middle of a white ocean of snow. So sometimes people interpret things literally, and I try to understand. So I'm not making any conclusion, but I'm opening ideas for investigation. So you can find many connections with Central Asia, especially with Kashyapa. From Kashmir No, Kashmir means Kashyapa Lake, from where it gets its name. Even the Caspian Sea, it's connected with Kashyapa. And if you check the Kashyapa history, you find that he married many different wives, daughters of Daksha. Daksha lived in Haridwar. So he married many different daughters of Daksha, and he progenitor of many different groups. The most important of them are the Adityas, the sons of Aditi, that are the Devatas. And from Diti, that is the sister of Aditi, he has fathered the Daityas, that are the Persians. How can we have so sure that they are Persians? Because if you check the Persian Avesta literature, you will mention that their sacred river is called Daitya. And you can find many connections between the Iranic people and the ancient Vedic Aryans. So Iranian are Aryans in the sense that Avesta is their Veda. Avesta is the same meaning. It meaning as revelation, knowledge revealed. Avesta is like revelation. It's you can find many similarities with Bible and Quran. That is like a revelation book, but it's their version of the Veda. And there are some many similarities with Vedic lore in the Avesta, but there is the different perspectives between the Devas. The Devas are called as evil beings in the Avesta, and while the Ashuras are called evil in the Veda Purana lore, but are called as God in the Avesta. So you can find this connection, it's very clear. But also said that Kashyapa had other wives, especially Danu, that is mother of Danavas. That we also find Indra fighting with Danavas, the Vritrasura. And Danavas are related with the Danu River, the Danube River in the Eastern Europe and the Black Sea area, and with the ancient Urartu kingdom. Urartu kingdom in the Vom Lake is what is today Armenia, that Azerbaijan area, and there is very ancient also as India, Lithuania. Lithuania, you can find even the Ashwini Kumaras, the worship of Ashwini Kumaras in ancient Lithuanian lore. And all these civilizations, they were sons of Danu. How can we know that? Because the Celts, the Celtic people, they claim to be Aryans, and they claim to be sons of Danu, Danu mother. And all the rivers of Europe are related with Danu, Danubio, Dans. You can find many relations of Danumata with Danu goddess in the Celtic lore. And in the Puranic lore, Danu is the mother of Danavas. So you can find and see that Danavas and Daityas, they are the Persians and the South Russians, the ancestors of Europeans, is what people call the Yamna civilization, the Yamna culture. And they try to claim that the Aryans are there. The Danavas are the first Aryans, because the Danavas are the first Europeans, the first white dudes, like the Germanic uh, genes came from Urartu, came from Armenia, Ukraine, and this connection is it's real, it exists, and it's a matter of proud for Europeans. But they claim that they are the original Aryans don't really make sense, because the Danavas and the Daityas always fought against the Adityas. Even sometimes they are more friendly, and sometimes they make some deals between each other, but they are like rivals. And Arya never meant a racial terminology, but a follower of a culture, a follower of Vedic ethos. And even that they preserved the terminology area in Persia, They claim to be Aryans, and even the name Iran came from that. And even in the Armenia, ancient Armenia, also they have a name connected with Arya that you can find many connections between them. But this original the terminology area is not related with race, ethnicity at all. So I will talk a little bit about the mystery of the Nagas and the Yakshas, because other tribals that are mentioned in Puranas are the Nagas and Yakshas, and they are mentioned as the different Gana people, different tribal people, but many people associate they also with some kind of demigods, like the Nagas are associated with the serpents gods, and the Yakshas sometimes are related with some kind of mystical beings. But in Ramayana itself, you can find some characters that are associated with Yakshas, that are Ravana itself. Ravana was a Yaksha. What is a Rakshasa if not a Yaksha that eats human meat? So there are some Yakshas that were cannibals and they eat human meat. So they were called Rakshasa. But there are Yakshas that was like friendly to humans, to other humans, no? They were called Yaksha, and they were like very mystic, call it like very mystic and eccentric beings. But if you see the where they are related with, and you can trace the Yakshas to the Sino-Tibetan civilization, all that those long eyes, people from the Tibet, Ladakh, China, and even some parts of Nepal, Northeast India, and Southeast Asia. These people also are related with the Pacific and the American people. That is a mystery, because I call mystery because it's a mystery. I don't make claims like it's the final truth, but there are mysteries there and need to be investigated with a proper way, not just regarded as a myth. Because if you check the Naga civilization, Maya civilization, sorry, the Maya civilization in Yucatan, in Mexico, they have many similarities with India. For example, they call themselves Purusha. Men in their language is Purusha. That's pure Sanskrit. Other world that you can find, they call themselves as Yaksha. The Maya people, they call themselves as Yaksha. We are Yaksha. The name of their civilization is Yaksha. So there is a big whoa, what? And you check the architecture of the Maya civilizations, you can find many similarities with the Southeast Asia temples, the pyramids of Cambodia and Thailand, and you can find many similarities. And then you can find also some signs of Shiva worship in ancient Mexico of Hanuman. So yeah, even it's sometimes speculated, but there are some similarities that even the Europeans, they when they find America, they thought it was India because it was very similar. Not only the people, they have the features like Asiatic people, but they had many traces of similarity in the culture, like the four classes, like the umbrella for the kings and all the palanquin. They had all this, the yagyas and the pyramids, and they have many similarities that shocked Europeans, but these today are mostly forgotten or reminded only in conspiracy theories. But if you find like the word catamaran, it's a word for boat in many native traditions of America, especially the Maya tradition, but also other civilizations use this word catamaran, and it's very similar to the word in Tamil. So there I point the Naga people. What people call as Naga people is in fact the ancient civilization that dominated the sea travel. And it was the South Indians, what people call today as Tamil. If you check ancient India, you find many ports in Sindh, in Konkan area, in Malabar area, in Utkala area, in Bengal area, in Tamil area, that they have boats, and these boats navigate the ocean, connecting, for example, Sindh, Indus Valley civilization, for example. Even from Indus Valley civilization, they have connection with the Middle East, from to Oman to, and I believe even with Elam, with the Elamites from the Middle East, they are connected with Tamil people. They are described as dark skin, and they live in a port area. And if you see the trade between the Kerala and the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, and it's connected since ancient times. And in the east is the same, from Kalinga, from Bengal, from Tamil Nadu. You can find many connections to Southeast Asia and Pacific Islands. So for me, it makes much more sense that they had navigation knowledge system since ancient times, and they navigated from many continents, not only in India. If you see the word Elam, that people call Elamites in the Mesopotamia, it's a pure Tamil world. That if you see the Tamil Elam group that claim that the Elam, that is the Tamil kingdom, Tamil land. So it's a pure Tamil world, and they are described as dark skins by the Mesopotamians. And it's very clear for me. Even the Phoenician people, what people call Phoenician, the Canaanites, they had some similarities. I'm not saying that they are uh, connected with the Nagas gods, but they have some mysticism related with Nagas. Even maybe there's a symbology for the navigation knowledge, because the serpents in India, especially, you can see many serpents that they float in the water. They swim. It's kind of learning with the nature and given the, and yeah, you can find some mysticism in Orissa. Orissa, they have the Naga tribal people in the roots, and if you see Orissa, it's a mix between Nagas, Yakshas from the Assam people area, the Nagas from Tamil, and the Aryas from the central India, central and North India. So you can find in the Jagannath Mandir many symbolism related with Nagas. They believe that the Naga, the king cobra, they guard the temple. They are mystic beings. They exist there. You can find these Nagas there, and they are worshipped as the guardians of the traditions of the temple. The Naga culture in South Kalinga area also are related with this civilization. And you can trace from here why that in Kerala they celebrate the return of the Ashura king, Mahabali, from the sea, from Phoenicia, from Egypt. He was came in from by boat. So he was Ashura king. And the Nagas are sometimes related, described as friendly to Ashuras, and sometimes friendly to Devatas. The Nagas are a different clan, so they are not exactly Ashuric or Devic, but they relate with both. And I associate them with the South Indians, the Elamites, and also I believe sometimes the Egyptian culture is highly influenced by Naga Vansh, Naga civilization. It's a speculation, but I have some indications that yeah. So going beyond now, the Arya myth and the Dravida myth. These are the fraud created by Western Indologists and missionaries after discovering the similarities between Sanskritam, the Greek, the Slavic, and Latin, the basic of European languages. So they claim that Arya are the civilized, the white dudes that conquered the North India, that was Dravida, that was dark skin. So this is completely fraudulent theory. First started Manu, the first Arya. He was a Dravida king from Puranas. He was a Dravida king before the deluge. So the Manu itself was a Dravida. Shankaracharya, the great sage that today we celebrate his Jayanti, He also was a Dravida. He called himself as Dravida Shishu when he came to Kashmir. So it's a geographic terminology from South India. It was never mentioned as a race or ethnicity. So many things like the Sarasvati River, the Sapta Sindhu mentioned in the Vedas, the Indus Valley trade, the Silk Road, the Sea Road between the Indus Valley civilization and Oman. So all these shows that there was many ethnicities and different groups sharing the same civilization. There is the most obvious conclusion if you know that what is ancient India if not big rivers like the Punjab. It's huge rivers, the Ganga, the Yamuna, it's huge rivers. That's why the civilization developed, because it attracted a lot of different people, not only one group of people but many people. The same thing from Mesopotamia and Egypt. I don't believe that Mesopotamia, Egypt, or India are developed under just one ethnical group. This don't make sense because it's an ancient civilization with a huge area and a huge population. Let's go to 3000 BCE. 3000 BCE, when Indus Valley civilization was on its peak, maximum, no? Mesopotamia civilization was around 290,000 people. And Indus Valley civilization, it's 5 million people in the same period. So Indologists and Western Eurocentric people in the academia, they try to say that, oh, India was influenced by Mesopotamia. How? A civilization of 5 million people covering a vast area, much more larger than Mesopotamia and Egypt together. Much more larger. How a civilization of 5 million people is influenced by 300,000 and not the opposite. I believe it's the opposite. I believe it's a churning. It's a mix of culture. Even what this Purana says, if you check the Puranas, the Ashuras and the Vedas, the Devas are related in all aspects. You can find many Ashuras origins in India, in Pakistan, in even today India. So it's not exactly like there Asuras are from Middle East only, Persian Middle. No, Asuras are from India, in fact, but they migrated to those areas, and you can find traces from it, like the Anunnaki. People talk about a lot about Anunnaki today because Anunnaki are mentioned in the Babylonian tablets. And who is the king of Middle East according to the Vedic lore? Anu, from Dasarajana Yuddha. So you can find that Anu is in fact an ancestral deity. He became like the ancestor god. He is not like Anunnaki means that the sons of Anu, the sons of this ancestral god. So, and they came with high technology from India. And these bring a lot of, oh my God, they are like demigods, but they are humans with technology. But if you check the Assyrian king list, the Assyrian king list starts 2800 BCE. And the second king, there is the first list is the kings that lived in tents. The first is Tudia and the second is Adamu. And from here you can find the origins of Adam and Eve. So it's not the first man and the first woman, Adam and Eve. It's the first Ashura. And that's what Puranas say. Bhavisha Puranas call Adama and Hevavati as the first Mileshas, the first Ashuras. And the list of the Ashuras keep going, and they mention a very enigmatic name that is Naram Singh. Naram Singh is very similar to Narsingh. No, that is, and we know from the lore that Narsinghadeva, born in the Ashura, born no, he manifested himself in the Ashura clan. Prahlada, born in the Ashura clan. So people relate that the capital was Prahlad in today's Multan, but you can find this similarity in the Ashura kingdom. There is a king called Naram Singh. I'm not saying it's Nrsimhadev, but there is this similarity of names that you know that the Assyrian languages are Indo-European languages. So there is a lot of similarity with Sanskrit. Even the name of its kingdom, it's called in the beginning as Suvarto. No, the capital is Assur, and but the name of the kingdom is Suvartu. And they claim that this name, Naran Singh, is an ancestor name from Akkadian king that lived 1,000 years before this Assyrian Naram Singh. So it's a name from an 1,000 years tradition old, from Akkadian, that is older than Assyrian, that they lived in the same area, but they have a different name, that time Akkadia. That is also similar with Akkad, that is also Sanskrit name from the place of the training of the Kshatriyas. And if you see the kings of that area, it's all Shaha. The Shah, even the Daitya king, Xerxes, the Persian king, Achaemenid Empire. Xerxes, what is Xerxes if not Sher-Shah, the Lion King? So you can find many Sanskrit in these names, even it's not exactly Sanskrit. And you can find even the Mitanni kingdom in that area that was pure Vedic. They worshipped Indra, they worshipped Agni, Varuna, the Vedic gods outside India, not that in Assyria. So Mitanni, but if you check the Mitannis itself, they claim they are in a foreign land, that their people don't worship the same gods of them. They don't speak the same language of them. They came from outside to that area. So yeah, you can find mixture of Devic culture in the Middle East. In the same way, you can find also Ashuric traditions in India. So it's all mixed. I'm not saying that it's separated, but is a churning. The churning of the nectar of the ocean is this churning of our civilization, is the churning between the Eastern and Western civilization, is the churning between the Eastern and Western mindsets that are so opposite, but at the same time also complementary. You can't understand the history of one without understanding the history of the other. So you can find many influences from the Achaemenid Empire, from Cyrus, Xerxes, the Daityas. They call themselves Aryana Vaeja. The Vendiad claims that Ashuras living in 16 different lands. These scholars differ from where they came from. Some claim that these uh, Ashuric lands are mostly in India and Afghanistan, Pakistan. Some claims they are in Central Asia to Middle East, but I believe that they came from North India, Pakistan to Middle East. Uh, so we need also to take a look in the Amudarya region, the Amudarya and Sirdarya region, that is pure Sanskrit names that are in the connecting also the Central Asia. That is the land of the Shakas, the Scythians. And if you check what the Vedas and the Puranas says about the Shakas and even the Yavanas, the Greeks, that they are Kshatriyas mixed with Shudras, that they are Vedic people, but they mix it with other tribals communities, so they are not exactly more Vedic, pure Vedic like. So they transmutate in something else. Even the gods, if you check the Mitra god, it's a pure Sanskrit name. It's a pure Sanskrit god that came from Adityas. He's Aditya. He's a solar god, and he came to Persia, and later he even came to Syria and Rome, Greece and Rome. You can find the worship of Mitra in the Vatican. Vatican is a mixture of the Ashuric traditions of Middle East and Aryan traditions of Mithraism that worship the Mithra, the solar deity. That's why Jesus is associated. I will talk about more about this in the third class about the religions of Ashuras and Devas. So we'll talk more about this. So the Danavas from the Huns, no, the Armenian, the Huns also people claim how the Huns are the Vedic people. The Huns they invaded India in the past, and if you see, they even founded some kingdoms there. Mihirakula is the most famous Hun Hindu king, and they adopted Hinduism when they enter India. But I believe that they also were Hindus before, because the ancient religions of the Middle East, the Ashura's religion was Vedic, was basic on Veda, but on their version of the Veda. Okay, so I think I talked a lot. Just to finish our talk today, I would like to talk a little bit about the Dasarajana Yuddha that claims to be a big divisive in the Veda. The Puranas talk about the Devashura war, and the Veda talks about the Dasarajana Yuddha. That is a war between 10 kings against Sudas, that is a kingdom of ancient North India. Sudas, he is from the Bharata dynasty, and there is two dynasties in ancient Indian Vedic lore: the Solar dynasty and the Lunar dynasty. They both came from Manu. The Solar dynasty came from Ikshvaku, and the Lunar dynasty came from Ila. Ila was the first daughter of Manu, and she married Buddha. That is the first Buddha in the Vedic lore. That is the real Vishnu avatar, and he is related with the planet Mercury. So they got the Pururavas, and Pururavas Nahusha and Yayati, and Yayati was the king, and Yayati he had two wives, Devayani and Sharmishta. Devayani was the Daitya Guru Putri. She was daughter of Shukracharya, of Venus planet, that he was the Daitya Guru. He was the guru of the Daityas. And Sharmishta was the daughter of the king of Daityas. And these two wives of Yayati gave Sharmista gave three sons and Devayani gave two sons. It's Yadu, Turvashu, the sons of Devayani, and Anu, Druhyu, and Puru, the sons of Sharmishta. The tradition says that the Devayani chastised Sharmista. They have a fight, a quarrel between them. But I want to enter in that. The most thing is because Yayati got a curse, and this curse made his grow older, and he couldn't enjoy life anymore, and he was very attached to the pleasures of life. So he asked for a boon to his guru Shukracharya in a way to subdue it, this curse. And Shukra told him that only thing that can be do is the son, his son, he accept the curse for him. So he asked his sons if the son will accept it, his curse, and all the sons rejected. So only Puru accepted. So Puru, he accepted his father's curse and get old, and his father could enjoy a happy life. But after his father enjoyed a lot, he remembered his son that was old, and he reverted the blessings and gave the youth again to his son, and then he gave the capital of his kingdom to Puru and divided the others to the other sons. So Puru get the Sarasvati River area. That is the central area of the Vedic civilization. That is the Sarasvati. That is what's today Rajasthan and Punjab and Gujarat. So this area was for to Puru. To north, he gave to Anu. To west, to Druhil. To east, to Turvasa. And to south, to Yadu. From Yadu, you can find the Yadava kingdom, the Yadavas. They are basically the Marathas. From the Turvasa, you can find the East Indians, Aryans, the Bengali, the Bihari, Madhya Pradesh, and Uttar Pradesh people. And then in the central area, Puru, Sarasvati civilization that dried. And after the river dried, you can find a huge migration from Puru people to the east and west. Druhu, basically, they are associated with the Gandhari people. They are more described as white skin, and sometimes people associate them with Dahu, the Dahas, the Dahai, the people of Armenia, the Urartu people. That they are the ancestors of the Celtic, the Germanic tribes. And Anu, I believe that went to the what is today Mesopotamia, and founded the Anunnaki clan. So this is my first class about this very controversial topic that have a lot of implications, and we can speculate a lot about these topics. And I'm not making any claim like this is that. No, this is a knowledge under construction. So I also need to mention here that many of this knowledge came from these authors I mentioned in the beginning, and some are my own speculations and my own ideas mixed with these old other scholars uh, traditions. So I would like to thank you, and tomorrow we will have another talk. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, you can put your questions below, and tomorrow we will debate it. Thank you so much.